Welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty.
Hi, welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. My name is Jody and I am your host, and today we are having a beautiful conversation with Professor Dawn Dominguez, who runs Windows of Hope Counseling Center. Dawn, welcome to the show. I appreciate your time, and I know I'm going to appreciate your knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh my God, such a pleasure.
Being able to come on and chat. And it was so wonderful getting to know you when we talked the first time. So I'm sure we'll enjoy this.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What made you get into counseling and open up your center and
Mm-hmm. When I first, my very first time in therapy, I was 15 years old after being in, I guess we'd have to start there. Because that's when I really decided I wanted to be a marriage and family therapist. And
okay.
I wasn't really sure if I wanted to be a psychologist clinically or a marriage and family therapist, but marriage and family therapy was kind of taking off then in the 80s, like really being recognized more. So I kind of thought about that. But my very first opportunity to be with a therapist was when I had run away from home and was put in a safe institution, home, house, space for about 3 months. And I had my first therapist there. And he taught me so many things, and I really wanted to really work with adolescents was my hope. Young people like me, I thought, I want to be a therapist like him and make that happen. But what I've learned along the way, so that's 40 years ago. I just turned 55, and that was 40 years ago I met that first therapist.
Well, you don't look a day over 40, darling.
Thank you. When I was 3 years old, I was raised by addicts. So at 3 years old, I was in the foster care system for a while. And so a lot of that stuff comes up and visits us in our later years to be managed. And in
yes,
therapy,
doesn't it?
right? In therapy, sometimes that's the best place to do that, to visit some of those past experiences. And luckily, I had the best experience with my therapist. So at 16, I started my high school plan because I had failed all of my classes up until then, and began to study very aggressively, and finished my diploma on time and was able to go to school and start my educational journey to become a marriage and family therapist. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That's a hard road. Like, that's a lot of inner strength right there, just to, be kind of on your own, and then, pulling yourself through all the hell and then still being able to go to school at the same time.
I was thinking that actually this morning. I thought, as I was getting ready to come to the office, I thought, man, I have really come a long way from that little girl, that strong little girl at age 5, that 3 to 5, that really survived the foster care system. And then the 15-year-old me who was able to get through the runaway situation and the struggle of being a teenager, and then off to university. So I really honor what's beautiful about all of this is that I really honor the education that I received. And I'm able to give that gift of love and hope to so many people, which is amazing. And I really appreciate what I get to do, and all the beautiful lives I get to share here with, all of the experiences we get to have, and all the growth. And so Windows of Hope didn't start until 2006. I had three littles while I was going to university of my own, and I was raising them. And it took me about 9 years to finish that degree because of raising kids.
Yeah.
It was not easy
Yeah,
while I was
that's a
doing
full-time job.
it. And then in 2006 was when I was finally able to start the nonprofit counseling center and really offer more services to the community, helping students to get licensed and offer affordable counseling to the community that we're in. Wherever we are settled, we get to offer this affordable sliding scale fee. And yeah.
That is such a gift. I can't even tell you, like, I mean, how many times I had to stop therapy because it was like, do I have a therapy session or do I eat this month?
Yes. And it's hard. We don't really have a lot of services for people even with insurance. A lot of people don't take insurance, which I
Yeah.
don't either, so I understand. Or there isn't affordable options out there. I'm hoping that in the future we can make a change on a different level, but for right now, I do my little part by offering sliding scale to the
Yeah,
community.
that's
And
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's harder to
It
get
just
into
makes it,
me, but the students, yes.
yeah, absolutely, right? You've got the experience, the lived experience, and all the training. So I imagine you have quite a waiting list, but
Mhm.
the fact that there is some support available and you don't have to mortgage your house to get it is just like an incredible gift to give. So thank you for doing that for so many people.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So that was the start of Windows of Hope. My father took his life while I was at school, and he had bipolar, back then manic depressive disorder, and was very heavily addicted to his substances. And back then it was really hard to get the right medication or to get the best fit.
Yeah.
And he had the addiction piece too, and was really having a hard time with that. So we lost him along the way, and he wasn't able to see everything that I was able to do. But in our mission statement, I state that it's my goal and hope that everyone would have somebody to talk to if they needed
Yes.
to talk.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's the most important piece. And I don't want money to get in the way of that.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You got
Mm-hmm.
the gift of saving a life. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got bills to pay too, but at the same time, you're able to offer that sliding scale, which just opens the door for so many people and I know so many people personally who are just struggling and can't afford anything, any support. And in Canada, I mean, like, there is very few nonprofits, very, very few. And so like counselors are asking, like psychotherapists are asking like $200 an hour. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, when you're on disability, it's not possible.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder, I have quite a few friends in Canada. I wonder if there's something we could put together for that area. Hmm. An idea. A
Food for
seed has been
thought. Yeah,
planted.
for sure. Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
be jump, I'll be jumping on the list myself. So
Yeah. Maybe let's see what we could do. I mean, yeah, I have a lot of colleagues in Canada. So let me see. My mind is rolling. I
I know, right? Spinning with ideas. I see it going.
I'm like, I wonder if we could. I don't know what yeah, we'll figure that out. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm terribly sorry about the loss of your father too. That's awful. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's just so hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm. It becomes who we are. Yeah, it's become who I am. Part of all of it has become the center. It's the core of the center. It's the core of me. It's the core of the healing. It has become who we are. I'm right here in Long Beach where he received his therapy and where he went to the hospital, where he had his substance abuse treatment. And I have this aha moment. Here I am in the very place where he looked for healing. I somehow landed here. And not on purpose. So that tells you something about how
absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm not able to bring him back, but yeah, he's definitely here with us. And
I was gonna say he's definitely with you and watching over you. He's just not physically present.
For sure. Yeah, and so I don't know if that was enough. I've become a couples therapist. Along the way, I met with Harville Hendricks in about 2007, 2006, 2005, somewhere in there. And he's the founder of Imago Relationship Therapy, and I became an Imago relationship therapist. So I work a lot with couples and I help families that way. Really helping couples connect and see things from wherever they came from, bringing up all the past stuff. And so I do a lot of that deeper couples work. And that might be a neat one to talk about someday as well. And then the counselors work with everybody. I do as well. It just depends. But it's interesting you bring up Canada too, is I just met up, and this will kind of introduce us into the where in my life am I not saying no on my daily and in all of our daily, like where a lot of people call it boundaries. I like to move away from that language because it's a little, there's just so much out there. We'll get that word confused. And
Right.
Sometimes it's kind of, people say boundaries, but they're really bullying, using it as like a negative way with people. And so I want to move away from boundary talk, but not that it's bad, but more in every beat of my life. Where am I not saying no? Where am I not saying the thing that I must say that's most important for the conversation or the relationship? And where am I not saying yes? So those are really, really important to talk about. And in December of 2023, I went to a conference out here in Anaheim, and Gabor Mate was at that conference, and he's in Canada.
So cool.
Yeah. I've never seen him in person, or, I've heard his name dropped, but I walked into that room and he asked that question, where in your life are you not saying no? And I immediately knew the answer to the question. And he talked about immune disorders, and he talked about illness, and he talked about how, if I'm not saying no, it can impact our very existence, our health, how we, immune disorders, heart attacks, like everything, like it can affect our health.
Literally every person I know with trauma has an autoimmune disorder of some sort.
Right? It was amazing when he started talking. I'm like, wow. And so I immediately went to those places I needed to say no, and I did it. I took action, and I started feeling better and getting healthier. Immediately, I have been sick for years and years, and not saying no where I need to. And I was running a whole center that I knew I needed to say no to in 2017. And here I sit, 2023, listening to this beautiful man speak. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's been 6 years. I'm still running it. And so I traveled down up to NorCal and said, Northern California at that location, and said, hey guys, we're closing in a month. Let me see if I can help you. But if not, start looking for another location. All of my clients moved to Zoom, and
Right.
made it easier for me. And they were surprisingly amazing about it and jumped right on board with the Zoom sessions.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And I was able to shut that location down. Since I've shut it, I haven't had one bout of pneumonia. I haven't had any flare-ups. I've been super healthy. I started gaining weight, which I needed to do. My health was suffering, and I was getting thinner. And I really believe that it's important that in our life we know where to say no. And if we can't say no, because that happens, sometimes we can't say
Yes,
no.
it does. It takes a long time to learn to say no without guilt.
Right. And with guilt, I love that you just said that. Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about guilt, because you're the second person today to say that. And I love that you just said that. You're going to like what I'm going to talk about on that one, I think. But sometimes we can't say no because circumstances too. Either we're too young, powerless, money. Gosh, there's so many things that people don't realize. There's a lot of people out there pointing fingers at people, and they have no idea, right, what people are going through and their ability to say no or yes to something. Some people don't have the choice to say no or yes to a situation for lots of different reasons. So, but you brought up guilt, so I want to talk a little bit about that. There's a many times whenever we're making a choice to say yes or no about something, there is a battle between attachment and authenticity. My authentic self wants to say something, and I risk losing my attachment if I'm authentic.
Right.
Right? And so the attachment happens when we're little. So you and I match up at the 3-year-old wound. I already know. I can tell as we talk. In the very beginning, we would have been great playmates at that age, right? There was something happening for us when we were
Yeah.
little. That taught us guilt. We're not born with guilt. We're born with compassion and freedom and life and breath. And guilt is taught to us at a time when we were not allowed to say no and couldn't. Okay. And that happens for a lot of us. So any guilt that we're feeling is borrowed from somebody else. We can probably guess who it is, whoever's listening. Wherever that guilt comes from, it comes from somebody else, not you. You weren't born with it, right? And so I have
Right.
an answer, though. And my answer is to learn to get to know the guilt and love her or him. Love that little one, because that's who's coming to visit whenever you feel that guilt. It's not the grown-up us that feels that, it's the little one. And so we build a relationship with our guilt.
Right.
Yeah. Love
That
on it.
makes sense.
Yeah. You're invited. The guilt is invited, right? The guilt is invited to the space. And we invite her. We love her. She's got little skin knees and she's a little broken, but she's invited. And so
It's
we love her.
so important within our child work, right?
Mm,
Like
mm,
it's just so crucial.
mm, mm, mm. So we invite the guilt in. We get to know the guilt. We get to know what the guilt needs. We we learn that we are all of the parts, that we can give ourselves all that we need because we're grown up now. And we can love that little one, and we can love the guilt, and we can love the anxiety. The anxiety is telling us something's dangerous, it's about to happen. So you better be careful. And so we want to be with that part too.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Have you ever read the original version of Winnie the Pooh?
I don't know. I want to say probably, but I read a lot when I was a kid, like a lot when I was a kid. But I don't know if I had the original version or not.
There's before Disney got a hold of it, there's an original version. And what I love about Winnie the Pooh is it's basically all the parts of Christopher Robin, right? All of those little animals are all of his parts and parts of who he is. And Eeyore is always invited to the party, the depressed one, and Tigger, the
Yeah, I know, right?
ADHD. He's always invited. Tigger and all his crazies invited. And it's inclusion. We're inviting all of the parts to the space. And I think that's kind of what I'm coming to. Um, I think it's important that we invite in our guilt and be friends with it and find out what it needs. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and then identify too, like where did this come from? Like for me, for a long time, I had these like expectations in my head, like going round and round and round, and I was like, none of these make sense to me. Like I don't feel like they're mine. And then when I started doing some inner child work, I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is not my shit. This is my father's shit.
Mm-hmm.
They're his expectations that have been placed on me since I was like adopted. And when I was able to let go of them and now set my own expectations, it was like this huge weight lifted off.
Yeah. Yeah. So we give them back to the owner of those expectations. They belong to them, right?
Yeah.
No little one wants to feel like they're somebody's disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
We want to
Yeah.
feel like we belong, and that we don't have to be something different than what we are to fit in.
Yeah, no, I felt like I was wearing like 20 different masks by the time I was like 5 years old. Like
Mm-hmm.
this one had to be the school mask because nobody could know about what was going on at home. Then nobody could know about the sexual abuse. And then,
Mm-hmm.
my dad made money and he had clients flying from Switzerland. So then there was that mask where I had to sit at a table and behave like an adult, even though I was 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, all these like little things and so freeing to realize like wait a second, I'm old, I can set my own expectations, I don't have to listen to this nagging tape that's been on like replay for the last 40 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're done with it.
Yeah, that's it, it's done. I'm done with it. I'm done with I cut him out of my life. He's toxic, he's narcissist, he's abusive. It's I'm adopted, so I don't have that like, oh, it's blood family thing, right? Blood family to me is just like whatever. So you have the same blood. It doesn't mean like you have to like accept and love someone,
Yeah.
especially when they're horrible. And so I cut them off about a year ago. And honestly, like when I did that, it was again another like cathartic sense of freedom because I didn't have to keep building this wall, this fortress, these um, quote boundaries, so to speak, to keep him out and keep him from, sending me an email saying, you're stupid and you do this and you do that and everything's your mental health and blah, 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 blah. And just like all this degrading stuff. And when I finally was like, I don't really care what happens to you. You're out of my life, like all the best to you. But like, I wouldn't choose to know you as a person if you weren't my father.
Yeah. I love that statement because that's true. I asked myself that question. Would I be friends with this family member? Would I hang out with this family member? Would I choose to be with this family member? Blood or not? I don't, maybe not, maybe. And if yes, then what can I do different? Or can I move differently with that person if I want to? Yeah. Is there a way to communicate what I need with that person? I was really very lucky at the end of my mother's life to really get an opportunity to make some changes in that relationship.
Right.
But that doesn't always happen. We're very different and same in some ways. But we were really able to make some huge strides, and then she passed away unexpectedly pretty quickly. But it was neat to be able to do some work with her and to communicate differently with her so that I could know her in a different level, I guess. Or
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, she was able to show up and do some things, but that was like a miracle. It felt like.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, is this really
I,
happening? But her
I
voice
know.
still sits with me. Some of the, you bring up the stupid thing, that was a big part of her language to me, and ugly, a lot of ugly talk with me, or an
Oh
ugly
God, me too.
duckling. Yeah, you're not pretty, you're ugly, you're not, you're stupid, you're, all these kind of things, that even though we repaired some parts, that still sits with us, right, in time.
Oh
Uh,
my God, it does. Like,
mhm.
I feel like it's like an inner tattoo. Like I'm covered in tattoos on the outside, but I feel like that's like an inside tattoo, you
Yeah.
know, and you have to work so hard to cover it up and just like reinforce to yourself that you're not other people's words. You're not the things that have been said to you, the things that have been done to you. That doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
sum up who you are as an individual.
Mm-hmm. No, no. Yeah, there's so much work to do around that as well. I met up with a Christian shaman way back in, gosh, it's not way back now. It's kind of back. Time flies. Uh, it might have been 2014, so like 10 years ago, I met this amazing shaman. He invited me to one of his practices or something. I don't know. I didn't do um, the plant medicine or anything, but I got to come to like a
Right.
learning class. Like it wasn't a ritual, it was a learning class. And I watched him do some work on somebody, and I was able to put together a ritual that I can share, which is really interesting. I called it the forgiveness ritual. Um, but essentially, it's an acceptance ritual. Um, and there's some steps in it. And what I wrote first was forgiveness isn't stupid. That we have to be smart when we're forgiving. So remember, forgiveness doesn't mean that we allow people to do whatever they want to us and we lose our ability to say no. We still can say no in any moment, at any time, in any beat of our life. We can say no. Um, and so um, I that was a first statement in it. The second statement that I put in it was, and I could send it so that you can link it if you want. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'd love that. Love that.
I think people will really like it, and I utilize it a lot. But the second thing I wrote was that not everybody has the same ability to choose. That everyone has a different ability to choose. And there was a piece about, and that's actually based on abuse. It's based on what we've been taught. It's based on resources. There's a lot of reasons why not everybody has the same ability to choose,
Right.
and it's unique for everyone. And the other piece was that many times people hurt us out of survival, not out of, and not because they don't love us, but people hurt us sometimes by existing. I'm not talking about the big ones. I'm talking about the little ones.
Yeah.
Existence wounds, just sharing space. And some people really are out to do harm.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to know that. If we don't know that, it's very important that we know that. If we don't know that, we're at risk. So it's important to know that some people really are out to harm. So I have some of that in there as well. But take a read on it. It's good. But the ritual goes like this. I love you, and I know you did your best given your circumstances, and some of the circumstances that were in front of you that made you choose the things you chose were, right? And so you list out what some of those circumstances are. And it doesn't mean to excuse a behavior. All it means is that that was what you knew how to do because of your circumstances, whatever those were. Those are for us too, by the way. If we ever feel like we weren't our 100% in the past, we can always go back and do the same thing for ourselves.
Right.
Yesterday me didn't know everything that today me knows for sure. And so I might have done something that wasn't the best. And so I don't need to beat myself up over that. That's okay. And then the second part is, what do I want to say goodbye to? And for you, I'm hearing you say it's goodbye to the father, to the adopted father, I think, right, Jody? I think you said.
Yes, yeah.
So sometimes it's people, sometimes it's an experience, sometimes it's lack of sleep because of a thing that happened. Sometimes it's, I'm saying goodbye to me being ugly. I'm saying goodbye to me being stupid. I did that by getting an education and doing it anyway. And I'm learning that I'm beautiful and smart and all the things, right? Do you have a kitty cat over there? I see. I saw you look off to the.
I have a kitty cat and I have two dogs who are debating whether they want to bark at the door right now to be inside with mommy or outside with my roommates.
I saw your eyes. I'm like, there is definitely a cat
Like,
over there.
well, yeah, and there's a cat too, so she's happy they're outside and they're like, hey, where's mommy?
I'm a really good guesser when it comes to those kind of energies like cats and dogs.
That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, that's funny. And anyway, so the next step is to what am I going to say goodbye to? And sometimes it's items. Sometimes we'll get rid of an item or anything that's I'm hanging on to, anything I want to say goodbye to. I'm going to say goodbye to any guilt that I did anything wrong when someone else hurt me. Right,
yeah.
And then the next step is to what gifts did I receive from all of these, whatever the thing is that happened. And there's always gifts in it.
That's what I am learning. That's what I have learned this past year. I have you know what? All this trauma had to mean something. I have to pull something good from it. So what is it? So for me, it's my ability to relate to, so many different people because of all the different experiences I went through. The gift of empathy, because you can be compassionate and you can be sympathetic, but unless you survive something, you cannot be empathetic.
Yes.
And that's been a huge gift for me. And then also having all this knowledge. I don't have the letters behind my name to, make money off of it per se, but at the same time, I'm like, why would I keep all this knowledge to myself when it could help so many people, right?
I love that. Yes. And that's a gift too. You're a gift to all of us, right? And so,
Thank you.
And that gift is like a huge one. And that's the same for me, like the gift of being able to connect with people on a deeper level and really, so there's all the gifts that came with it that we have. And then at the very end, it's what am I going to do now with my gifts? How do I want to move forward? What can I do with what we already are doing some things, but there's more stuff we could do to make it more complete. And I call that the forgiveness/acceptance ritual. And I have some cool journal beginner prompts at the
Oh,
end.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'll link
I
that.
love journal prompts. They just are like, sometimes my mind is so busy that I'm like, blah, what am I going to write about? I got thousands of topics in my head. And then I see a journal prompt. I'm like, perfect.
Yes. Yeah. And that, I think that's really good for us too, to write out, because whatever flows is like so helpful as well. So I have some of that in there. And then, so there's two. I have on saying yes and no. I have some things I wrote about that one. And then I have the acceptance forgiveness ritual. Maybe we can link it so people could
Yes.
journal and
Yeah.
read a little. It's only a couple of pages each one. They're really simple.
Perfect.
But I
Yeah.
think those would
I
be
can add it to the show notes, and then like I'll put in there, click down below for a link, and then I'll add the link in so they can get straight to it.
wonderful. Yeah, I think that would
Awesome.
be really helpful. We're going to add it to the website as well. I think we have the yes and no one in the website, but I don't think we have the forgiveness one. So I think we're going to add that one.
Okay, perfect. I'll post your website too.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any
Um,
more questions before, or any thoughts?
I know I just looked at the time and I'm like, I know you have a client in like 6 minutes, so I don't want you to be like jumping out of this and just hopping into a client without taking a minute to have a breath. But I so appreciate your time. I appreciate all our conversations. And as I said, like I would love to do this. Like, I know you're busy, but as your schedule allows, I think we connect I'm not very good at like, oh, how's the weather in California?
Yeah.
I'm like like I'm straight to the deep shit, man. Now tell me what's going on with you, like what's happening, right?
Yeah, I love
Um,
it. Okay, yeah, I would love to do
so
that. Yeah,
yeah, and then we can just, like we can pick a topic and something, and then we'll just like pick it apart for 45 minutes or something.
yeah, I like that. I'm open for
Awesome.
sure.
Aw-
Yeah,
Awesome. I would love to do that. So, we'll connect on email after this, and then we can set something up.
yeah, it was so wonderful talking with you.
It was a pleasure talking to you too, my friend. It's been a blessing getting to know you, and I look forward to getting to know you further as, the days go on.
And thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for coming, and thank you again for your time. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
You too. Talk with you
Okay,
soon.
you take. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a like and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And if you appreciate the work I do, why not buy me a coffee? Details in the show notes. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Dorian Kent and produced by Jody Betty and Dorian Kent. This has been a Raw and Open production.